This is the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Kendall of the notaballerina.com travel blog. Every episode I'll share travel tales from several fellow travel lovers, and together we hope to entertain and inspire you, remind you of some of your own great travel experiences, and encourage you to hit the road again soon. Hello and welcome to episode 86 of the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. Today our topic is travel and self-development. I am a huge advocate of the idea of travelling to improve yourself, to develop new life skills, to kind of really go on a big personal development journey, I suppose. Now, I didn't exactly set out to do this. It just happened to me, and that's why I'm often kind of encouraging people to go travelling, because I think it will really help them. When I started travelling more extensively, I was in my mid-20s and I'd kind of just done the normal things and been to university and got a job, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, that was it. And life was good, but I don't know, something inside me sort of said, hey, it could be even better. And off I went to teach in Japan initially. That's what took me on my travels at first. And right from the first days in Japan and through all the years of travelling I've done since, so much about me has fundamentally changed, and I think in a really good way. Like, travel's given me incredible confidence. It's given me kind of optimism. It's empowered me to believe that I can do anything. It seems it seems almost over the top to think that just simple old travelling can do this, but I really believe it can. And my guests today, I think, will agree with me, and they've got some really great stories about the way that travel has helped their self-development. But before we get on to those guests, I have to introduce a new sponsor this week. Korea China will be with us for the next 4 weeks. So thank you very much to Korea China for sponsoring the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. You can find Korea China at koreachina.com. And they're an organisation who help people who want to teach English in China to find a good job with, good working conditions, and they help out with all of those tricky things like getting visas and all of those extra hassles that come with moving to a foreign country. When I went to teach in Japan, the school that had hired me was pretty good at that, I have to say. But from then on, in the other places I worked, I really could have used someone like this. So, and the nice thing about Korea China is they also believe in travel and self-development, I think. So they think Korea China believes that teaching gives transferable skills that you can benefit you your whole life long in a future career, even if you don't dream of teaching in the future. And I wholeheartedly agree with this. So no matter your profession or your future professional goals, if you teach English in another country like China, the skills that you gain are, reach far beyond just classroom skills. Like you'll learn about working in a diverse team with people from different backgrounds, improve your communication skills, learn to think on your feet, have amazing problem solving skills. And it's just not just living in a country like China, but especially working somewhere like that. You really get to know the day-to-day events of a country. And I think that builds your confidence, and you get that feeling, like I said before, that you can do pretty much anything. So I think all of those skills that you can gain by doing something like teaching in China are pretty amazing. So this is what Korea China thinks, and I agree wholeheartedly. So thanks to them for their sponsorship of this episode. Now, let me move on to my first guest today, and she's on the Thoughtful Travel Podcast for the first time, but she's a dear friend of mine here in Perth. Her name is Pam Lynch. She's from the blog Travelling Bag, and she's done lots of amazing things to further her own self-development in the last few years, in particular involving travel. So I asked Pam if she thought travel helped with her self-development, and she straight away said, yes, definitely.
I've always travelled a lot. When I was married, when the girls were little, we travelled a lot through Europe and that sort of thing. But it was mainly when I had to do everything myself, when, I removed myself from the marriage, so to speak, and then I had to travel by myself, which was a little bit intimidating initially, because I'd always travel with a husband or with parents or even with my daughters. So to do it myself, it required me to basically step up.
Mm-hmm. It's quite a different way.
It is, and believe in myself, believe I could do it, and believe I could land at strange airports and cope with things.
Yeah.
And I think the first test was when I went to Bali by myself, because I had never been to Bali before.
Right.
And this is only going back about 7 or 8 years. I'd never been to Bali and never really wanted to, but through a set of circumstances, I ended up going. And walking into that culture I was intimidated, I guess. I didn't know what to expect and I didn't know how I was going to handle it. As it turned out, I went back again. And then going to Nepal by myself, that was a huge step outside my culture zone.
Yeah.
And I found I got there and I, did everything by myself and coped with everything, which was totally different, as you can imagine, to our Western culture.
Yeah.
And there was a point when I was sitting having a drink one evening and I thought, this is not the me that travelled all those years ago with a family, with young children. This is not the me that sought out, ham sandwiches in Venice. And we would go to KFC and that sort of thing rather than immerse ourselves in the local culture.
Yeah.
Which now I do that. I will go to local restaurants. I will feel comfortable talking to local stallholders in markets, and even if they speak a different language. So my personal development over the years of travel has been huge.
Was it a conscious choice, or it sounds almost like it just happened over more and more experiences added up to it?
Yeah, I think it was a more and more experience. The first time I travelled by myself without a husband, it was back to England, where I'd travelled several times with the family. So I knew.
And not so many cultural differences.
That's right.
And they speak the same language.
Although I felt more comfortable going there was still that bit of
it's still a big thing to do on your own.
Can I do this by myself?
Yeah.
And then gradually I've gone further afield, gone to places that I'd never been to before, and learned to cope. And it's definitely given me that sense of belief that I can. I can do this sort of thing by myself as an older woman.
Yes.
Because that's another thing. I think maybe as you do get older, you do think, oh, what the hell? I can do this. More so, I think, than when I was younger.
Yes.
I didn't have that belief in myself.
Yeah.
But through all these years of travel and having to deal with things, it's given me more of a belief in my abilities out there in the world.
Does that correlate then to your belief? Do you have a stronger self-belief in general, that you can kind of do anything, like not just travelling?
I think so, yes. Yeah, definitely. As I've got older, I've got much more belief in myself, and I'm willing to try different things when it comes to, communicating with people or
career,
setting up blogs, travelling, everything. I think, I can do it. It just takes me to sit down and actually do it.
Yes.
Often we say, I can't. Well, actually we can. There's nothing physically stopping us. It's just all in our mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Yeah.
And I think travelling is a good way to see that, because it's very clear, because you can see, oh wow, I survived. I went to a foreign country.
Yeah.
I negotiated in a foreign language. So it's very different from our everyday experience.
Yeah.
So you can see the development. Perhaps in your own everyday life, it's harder to see. It's more incremental or not so significant. And when you're in another country and you get that, you achieve those things.
You achieve something that you think, oh God, going back, 30 years, I would never have travelled there, or I would never have spoken to those people, or I would never have eaten that food, which is a big one for me.
Yes.
I was always very very westernised. I've been brought up in, the whole meat and three veg. So to try different foods was a big one for me.
So you can see that Pam and I think alike in this, that travel can really change fundamental things about you and really, really give your personal development a huge boost. In future episodes, I'll make sure I play you some other parts of my interview with Pam about her experiences trekking in the Himalayas, among other exciting adventures, and she's got some really incredible stories to tell. Now, my next guest is Anna Kwiecinska, and we've chatted with Anna before, and this time she explains about her taking off to spend an extended time in Morocco. We chatted at the end of last year, just before she was about to head to Morocco. And what I love about Anna is, a bit like me, as I explained earlier on, she just had a feeling that she needed to do this, and she has some really good reasons why.
The writer Paul Bowles, who was an expat living mainly in Tangier during a large part of the 20th century, after many, many years, said something along the lines of, if you don't know why you like something, it's usually worth your while trying to find out.
I love this.
So that can take you anywhere, really. But on the eve of launching myself to Morocco for the next 6 months, that's, if someone said to me, "Why are you going?" I can find lots of specific reasons, lots of very how can I put it? Reasons that are very evocative for me, but. Well, it's sort of quite sensual reasons, I suppose, but nothing to do with a man sensual, but more like smells and
the
experiences and the way of being in streets and the kind of clothes you wear and so on. But it all rolls up into, I'm not really quite sure why all of that appeals to me so much. And at this point in my life, late 50s, I'm kind of wanting to excavate my own reasons.
Right. Yeah.
For wanting to be in this environment, really envelop myself in it, and why it has really, since the first time I set foot in India 36 years ago, why this has been so deeply and persistently appealing.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, a lot of the time we talk about why we want to travel somewhere in a much more practical sense or in a much more, concrete kind of way.
Yes.
But I think you're right. I had this obsession with going to Iceland, and there's some practical and concrete things I could say as to why I wanted to go.
Yes.
But it was more than that, because those things could be found in other places too. But I just had this thing about Iceland. And when I was there, it rewarded me exactly how I expected. And it was amazing.
Right.
And something deeper than just, I don't know. It wasn't just the fact that it was an unusual destination, and I want to go back. I'm just really drawn to go back again.
Yes, you want to go deeper, I think. For myself, can't speak for you, but I imagine you want to go deeper into something. And just as you were speaking, I was contemplating the idea of, people have that awful word bucket list. I
hate the bucket
I really
list
despise it. It's horrible. But if I was going to draw up such a thing, I realised that it's a very self-centred, literally self-centred. So the thing at the top of my bucket list is to find out more about me. But knowing from my experiences of many, many decades of travelling now, that I become a different version of myself in each place that I am. And so really this deepening of an experience in Morocco is really, it's a travel it's a travel into my own world, my own psyche and imagination. And indeed, I'm very much hoping that I will make the time. I will create new habits. This is my thing. This is my New Year's resolution, 6 days ahead of the new year.
It pays to be organised.
Yes, 30 days to start a new habit. And I just want to get into that beautiful thing of, waking up and meditating in the morning for a little while and then sitting down at a desk and writing for a couple of hours, whether I feel like it or not. And just not moving until those 2 hours are up. And then walk out into the souk and, go and say salam alaikum to somebody and see what the rest of the day holds. Because, I don't know, you set out, you just open your door there and you walk into those cobblestone streets. You have no idea what's going to happen, but something always will.
I bet it really does. And I really like the idea of travelling to develop a new habit, because it's one of those situations, it's kind of like a clean slate when you're in your regular location and with your regular habits.
Yes.
Then it's a chance to kind of just kick those and have something new fill its place.
It is.
So.
I suppose, someone said to me, you're still carrying around the same old baggage, Anna.
Yes,
but at least half of the equation has changed. At least the place. So if it's your location, geography that creates habits for you, then at least you're giving yourself, as you say, half a chance.
Yes. Oh, I absolutely think it's a great chance to do that. It's a very simple and not very deep example, but when I moved to Japan, I didn't eat chocolate for 18 months because I was in a new place.
Yes.
And I was total chocoholic.
Yeah.
Still am sometimes. But someone said to me, Japanese chocolate tastes terrible. And so I decided, well, then I won't eat it. And a year and a half went by and I just didn't eat it. And it was... at home, I could never have done that in a million years. But new situation, new everything, and so I didn't. And then one day I eventually tried it, and it wasn't terrible at all. So after that, I couldn't resist it any longer. But yeah, new place, new routine. Yeah. I think it's completely possible.
Well, it'll be very easy for me to give up alcohol.
Yes, yes, that's true. That's a good place to go. I've been following Anna's time in Morocco online, and it certainly looks like she's having an amazing experience over there. I look forward to catching up with her a little bit later on and finding out more about what she's learned about Morocco and what she's learned about herself in Morocco. Now, my final guest today is Kristen Trumpy, and she's a psychologist who has a lot of really thoughtful stuff to say about travel. And I asked her about what kind of travel had given her some personal growth. And we chatted about fear and how you can grow from travelling regularly.
2005, I went to Egypt and I had signed up for one of these group adventure travel things, which means that basically you don't just sit in a bus and have everything brought to you, but actually the group decides that I need to use public transport and you go on the felucca boats and all of that. But I got there a little bit early. So I didn't know anyone. And the thing is, obviously, if you haven't traveled a lot, I think there is a chance that you're a bit more paranoid. And that's simply because growing up in a country that has newspapers, I think that's kind of been paranoid, because my parents are not particularly paranoid people. And I did not grow up being, scared of everything all the time at all. To the yeah. But then I got to Egypt and it was so scary because, first of all, they talked in a very different way. So I kind of, I'm coming from this, Zurich is probably one of the quietest cities in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was like, why is everybody mad and screaming at each other?
Oh, yeah, they would sound like that. That's so true. Yeah, compared to Switzerland. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, oh, my God, I have to dodge fights all day long. And then, I think that, like Egyptian drivers, I think even if you have traveled a bit, they are quite a handful.
Oh, that's also my experience, yes.
Yeah, you gotta stop praying, even if you're an atheist. It's weird.
Yes. Been there, done that, yes.
Yeah, so that was absolutely terrifying. And then on top of that, they actually had certain problems in touristy areas. So they would actually try to lure you in somewhere and then kind of say oh, we'll open the door and let you go if you buy something and stuff like that. So that was not in my mind. That was actually a thing that they warned us about, and Egyptians warned us of this. All right, it's not just
tourist kind of scaremongering. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So I think going there and being there and just that overload, that sensory overload, and just people actually trying to lure you into places, and also if you're a woman, unless you have a guy with you, there's always the possibility that they think when you travel by yourself, you are out for a certain particular kind of adventure, which I was.
No, and, exactly.
I think that was also quite scary. And what I love about that trip is that after that, I wrote up an article because the trip itself was amazing. And I sent it to a travel publication and they rejected it on the grounds that I had a fear mindset.
Oh,
and now I'm actually thrilled to have this, because some people now accuse me of, oh, it's easy for you. You're an optimist. And to you, everything's easy. And I'm like, nope. Look, I have this piece of paper which proves that I was just as freaked out as all of you.
Oh, yes. That's so true.
I changed result of traveling and all the time.
That is such absolutely, it's an excellent, it's great to have that piece of proof. I agree. In an episode that just aired recently, I interviewed a travel blogger who's like one of the most well-traveled people I know, and she told the tale of her first overseas trip. And she was also terrified and so on. And what's more, she was so incredibly homesick. She came home after 3 days, all the way back from the States back to Australia, because she was so homesick and so unable to cope. And she's gone on now, and people always say to her, "Oh, you're so lucky, you travel all the time. Oh, it's so easy for you, you can go anywhere." But yeah, she had a start like that. And I think many of us start traveling that way, with as they accused you of, a fear mindset. But travel, continuing to do it, just can really get us past that.
It can. And, I also think it's kind of important to do a good dance around your comfort zone, because I hear a lot of people who are always like, get out of your comfort zone all the time, like, just do it, whoa. And I think, there are some people who like that mentality. They are competitive, maybe they're athletic, and they like that kind of challenge. So it's great, go for the thing that terrifies you the most. But, I happen to be a bit more, sensitive, a bit more, not necessarily scared of imaginary things, but like just scared of real things that could actually happen. Yeah. And I've just found that if I would have that, leave your comfort zone, like that drill sergeant mentality, that would have turned me off travel. Yeah. So for me, I just felt like, yes, if you do the same thing over and over again, it's not going to help. But if you just kind of slowly increase the radius of what you feel comfortable doing, if you keep at that for 3 years, 10 years, 20 years, your radius of comfort is going to be amazing.
That's so true.
I think people are always on the, a lot on the short term, like you have to achieve everything now. And that doesn't work in a lot, if not all areas in life.
I just completely love Kristen's idea about doing a good dance around your comfort zone, rather than going crazily outside your comfort zone and trying to do the scariest stuff. But doing kind of regular dances right on the edge of your comfort zone will keep stretching it. And I think a lot of people approach travel in this way. I think I've done that too over the years. And you can really develop yourself, really extensively, little bit by little bit. I think it's a really good way to go. Now, that interview I mentioned during my chat with Kristen about a disastrous first trip was with Sharon Goulet, and that was in episode 65 of the Thoughtful Travel podcast. So I'll leave a link in the show notes to that episode as well. So that pretty much is it for episode 86 of the Thoughtful Travel podcast. Thank you again for tuning in. I hope that you have also had some growth and self-development through travel. I'm pretty sure that most of you listening will have had that, and I look forward to hearing about it. So hop over to the Facebook group Thoughtful Travellers and tell me some of your experiences there. I'd really love to hear them. Now let me give you some links and other places to look up some of the things we've mentioned today and my great guests. First of all, a huge big thank you to the sponsor Korea China. You can find them at koreachina.com. Now I have this weird feeling that my Aussie accent is going to make Korea sound weird to other people, so let me spell it. Career. As I hear my Aussie accent speak, I sound like some people will think I'm saying Korea, but no, koreachina.com, just to be sure you're getting there. Then I spoke with Pam Lynch from Travelling Bag. You can find her blog at travellingbag.com.au. She has, I think when this episode goes to air, it will be about a week until her first book is launched, and it's called How the Hell Did I Get Here? I've got my copy pre-ordered. I can't wait to read it, and there's a link in the show notes to find that as well. After Pam, I spoke with Anna Kwiecinska, and you can find her at annakwiecinska.com. I'll also leave a link there to some Paul Bowles books, which she mentioned as being quite influential in her thinking about travel. And you may remember that Anna and I are putting on a joint venture in doing a blogging retreat in Bali later in the year. I'll leave a link to that as well. And finally, I chatted with Kristen from the Positive Psychology podcast. So you can look that up wherever you listen to podcasts, the Positive Psychology podcast, or her website is strengthsphoenix.com/listen. Thank you very much again. Pop over to my Facebook group, tweet with me at Amanda Kendall on Twitter using the hashtag ThoughtfulTravelPod, and look up all of this info. The show notes are at notaballerina.com/86. Thank you so much for listening. This has been another episode of the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. Show notes and other information are at notaballerina.com/podcast. Join me again soon for another chat about why we travel. Bye for now.